What is up, everyone? Happy New Year. A happy new year indeed. Today I had one of my best days in about a month, shorting a couple overextended listed stocks, ONCY and FCEL. In this video, I'm going to walk you through those trades. I'm John Papa, and this is Sublime Trades. The first trade I want to talk about is ONCY. This was a listed stock that had gotten overextended on the daily chart and was gapping down in pre-market, an overextended gap down. And this setup has become my main focus. It has an extremely high win rate and a great risk-reward ratio, and most of the time these trades are stress-free. Generally, as long as the stock stays red, there's not much to worry about. You can usually get a really good entry and then just sit back and wait for the panic to cover into. Another great thing about this setup is that sometimes these stocks just completely fall apart. The panic can come very quickly and you can make some very fast money. So let's get into these charts. So this is the daily chart for ONCY, and as you can see, it's been pretty quiet for most of the year. It's only in the last couple months where it's shown any signs of life. I don't know what caused any of this run up, and in this case I don't really care. I'm just looking for that big overextension. And what do I mean by overextended? I want to see a stock make a big move off of a level of consolidation. And so the last real level of consolidation for this one was about this week long period here where it stayed in the 150 to 180 range. So consolidated there, and then it made this big move in 4 days all the way up to $6, and that's what I'm looking for. Once I see that move, I'm looking for it to gap down in the morning and then ideally attack the trade going into the open. So now let's take a look at the intraday chart and see how I played this. Take a look at a 5-day, 15-minute chart first to get the big picture. So you can see this big run up here. This is the overextension I was talking about. This is that level of consolidation where it had consolidated sideways between 150 and 180, and then it ran up all the way to $6. Let's look at a 1-minute chart. So you can see yesterday, the market was closed yesterday, Tuesday, the last trading day. This thing opened with a massive morning spike where it ran from 385 all the way to $6. Basically a big parabolic blow off top. So it hit $6 and then it pulled back pretty hard down to about 430 and then bounced and went sideways around $5. Let me turn on the previous close. So the previous close is really important for this setup. I'm looking for the stock to gap down. So this line here for today shows yesterday's close, or the previous close. And as you can see this morning, it was gapping down quite a ways below that previous level. So it had closed at 476, I believe. And early pre-market, it gapped all the way down to about 420. So I saw it, and I definitely had it on my radar. Now, a lot of times I'm going to wait till the open, as there's going to be a spike towards red to green, and I could put an order there to get filled on that spike. In this case, during pre-market, let me see what time this was. Around a half an hour before the open, there was this spike where it went up, and it went all the way up to red-green. I believe the trade went off at 476. So I started in my short here at 470. I put in a quarter size at this point because I didn't know if it was possibly going to just go green here. But it didn't. It pulled right back down and gapped down to near the lows of the pre-market. And so coming into the open, so I shorted it there. This is the open right here. It had gotten right back up close to 470 in pre-market, and then right at the open, you can see this big volume bar, and it just sold off all the way down to about 430. So I was feeling pretty comfortable with this trade, and I definitely wanted to add more size on a spike towards red-green. And I got that fairly quickly. It bounced back up and consolidated a bit, and then made that push trying to go green. So I didn't add on this initial candle where it went green, because again, I still wasn't quite sure if this was really going to hold and stay red. But as soon on this next candle, as soon as it went back red again, I put in my order. I had tried to get an order right at the previous close level of 476. I missed that fill, and so I just went ahead and I hit the bid, and I got filled at 470. And then it bounced one more time and went green, but it had a lower high than this previous attempt, and that was a very good sign that the top was in. And so it pulled back, bounced here a little bit, and then right around here was where I got my last add. I think I doubled my position size from what I had. I had shorted 500 shares here, 500 here, and I added another 1,000 there. And at that point now, I'm just waiting. My initial risk on these first 500 shares had been this previous high in the afternoon from the previous day, where it topped here at $5. So I was risking just above $5, like maybe $5.05. Once this top got put in here with this lower high, now I'm comfortable risking this high right here. And so at that point, I doubled my position size right here, about 467. And then it looked like it was possibly going to hold this initial level that it had dipped to right out of the open, which was about 430. Because it pulled kind of hard down here to about 435, and then that level supported really well. I considered putting in a cover order here at 436, but I wanted to see at least this 420 level from the pre-market. That was kind of my target for my first cover. So I was patient and I waited, and it bounced a little bit, and at this point I thought that I might have missed it, because a lot of times these stocks can bottom out during this time. This is about 10:05, and I find that this setup, they can often put in their bottom sometime between 10 and 10:30, and then they can bounce from there. A lot of times they'll bounce up to VWAP, and possibly even push higher. Luckily that wasn't the case though, and this thing just started falling apart really hard. And so I covered here about 425. Like I say, I wanted to cover in the low 420s based on that pre-market low. And then it just collapsed from there like really hard down to about $4. And I just started covering. Unfortunately, I covered too early, because now this was a really good panic. And I thought that maybe this $4 level was going to hold, the whole dollar, half dollar support or resistance level. I expected, because of how big of a move that was and how quick it went down, and you can see that's just all red candles, I thought it was going to support there at $4 and then bounce from there. Unfortunately for me, it took another leg down, all the way down to about 340, 345. So I left quite a bit on the table there. From that 345 level, it bounced, and then it actually went lower. It put in a bottom at about 330. So my average cover was nearly $1 off the lows, and I'm not too happy about that. I'm generally more patient with these, but it's a balance, because I find myself a lot of times only covering partial, like maybe half of my position into this, what would generally be the morning low. And then I have to hold it, and on my other half of my position, I'll watch like most of my unrealized profits disappear as the stock bounces in midday. And then a lot of times when I'm holding it like that, I'm waiting for it to break down in the afternoon. But I found that for me, it's probably better for me to just go ahead get my initial entry near red green, close to the open, and just take off into that morning low. And then if I want to, depending on how the chart looks, I can go ahead and get back in if it bounces back up towards VWAP. I can reshort it if I want to try to hold it for an afternoon breakdown. So in this case, I was only in this trade for about an hour and a half. This was just before 9 o'clock when I got my first entry, and I had gotten all covered up here by 10:39, 10:40. And I made $1,100 on 2,000 shares, and that was definitely a very decent trade, and I'm happy with that. It was disappointing that I missed all of this, but $1,000 in an hour and a half, who's gonna complain about that? And you can see that after that low got put in the morning here, it did bounce quite a bit off the lows from that 330 level. It bounced back up over 4, and then kind of went sideways around $4 for the rest of the day. And so that's what I'm trying to avoid by covering my entire position into this morning panic. Today I just kind of underestimated how much it really could panic and covered a bit too soon. But live and learn. I'll be better next time. So that was the first trade out of 2 trades that I want to talk about today. That overextended gap down setup on ONCY. I love that setup. It's become my new favorite. I left $2,000 on the table. I still made like $1,100, so no complaints here. If you're enjoying this video, please smash that like button, or just hit it, or click it, or tap it, whatever suits you best. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Did you play ONCY? Did you play FCEL today? How'd you do? Now let's get into my other trade, FCEL. This was also an overextended trade, but this one was not a pre-market gap down trade. So we'll get into the charts and see how I played it. So this is the daily chart for FCEL. Now this is a different platform. This broker is kind enough to actually draw my entries and exits on the chart automatically. The other trade that I took was through Trade Zero, and I'm not currently using their pro platform, so I don't have a way to have broker generated charts with my entries and exits. So I just draw them onto my chart in Thinkorswim, because I do use Thinkorswim as my main charting platform. Anyways, back to this trade. This is FCEL on the daily. You can see it's kind of a similar situation where there was not a whole lot going on for most of the year. Now, it did have a couple moves that, because it was such a low price, these were fairly large percent gains on these moves here. But in general, you could say that this was just moving in a channel here between like this 30-cent level and let's say 90 cents. So it finally broke out here a few days ago over that 90-cent level. I guess that was really the $1 level, was the resistance from here and here. And so it broke out and made this big move up to nearly $3 today. It looks like it topped out right around $2.90, $2.93. So again, this is the kind of overextension I'm looking for. I want to see some amount of consolidation, and then I want to see big green days. So let's get into the intraday chart. So this is a 5-minute chart. It looks like about 4 days. And you can see, it made this big move again from that $1 level. It tripled, is up almost 300%. Now I had been watching it because of how it acted on Tuesday, the last trading day before today. It looked like it had topped out right here, where it had this kind of parabolic action and a hard pullback, and then it tried to break out again but set a lower high, and then it sort of faded off into the afternoon, into the close and into pre-market. And then even at the beginning of pre-market, it had gapped down. But in this case, unlike on ONCY, in pre-market, it went ahead, it tested red green, and it squeezed hard. It went from about 230 to 290 in pre-market. Let's see a 1 minute chart. And so this is that pre-market squeeze. So at that point, it's holding up well above the previous close, which is this dotted line here. So I'm no longer looking for that overextended gap down play, because obviously it's gapped up. It looks like it's going to open with a big gap over where its previous close was. And that was the case. Now it did kind of panic right out of the open, but it held above that red-green level. And with this one, it's been so tricky. The last few days, I had tried to play this a few times before, and I believe I took losses on most of the shorts that I tried leading up to this one. So today I was really determined to just wait for this to go red before I tried to take a shot at it. And so in the morning it was being pretty choppy. Let's see if I can zoom in here. Still getting used to this platform. This is a new broker I'm starting to use just over the last couple of weeks. So you can see here, it was kind of going in a channel here between, you could say, like $2.50 and $3. It was really choppy this morning out of the open. This is the open right here. You know, pulled down towards 250, went right back up towards the highs, pulled back down to 260, you know, back up to 285. And so I was just watching this. I had this on one of my side screens, just seeing the chart. I knew that I potentially wanted to play it, but with what it was doing here, there was no play for me. This could have easily just consolidated here for a little bit and then gone up, broke out over this high and just squeezed higher, but it didn't. So I saw it start to break down right here, and as soon as, like, I was paying attention every time it was testing these lows, and when it bounced right here and then took this hard pull here, I was ready. I went ahead and I located my shares at that point. But I waited. I was patient because I didn't want it to potentially pull really hard, put in a double bottom right here where it had bottomed this morning. Because then if it would just double bottom there, that could be kind of put in really good support, and then it could just keep going higher. So I was patient and I waited for it to go red. And then as soon as it went red, I started shorting, and I believe I shorted 1,500 shares. So each of these candles, there's two of them right there and one more there. Those were each 500 shares at a time. And so I just shorted it into that initial move into the red. Now, in this case, and likely in a lot of cases, I could be a little bit more patient, because generally when a stock pulls and goes red like this, it's going to bounce back up and at least test that red-green level again. In which this one did. It actually tested it and went green. So I was getting a little nervous here, but I was risking off of this, what had been support during this time here. So kind of these three tests here of the lows in the about 263 level, so about the mid 260s. That was my risk level for this trade here when I shorted it. And so it bounced back up, and it stopped just under 260 and then pulled back down and then just completely fell apart. It went down all the way down to 188. So unfortunately, as I said, this is a new broker. I'm not totally used to the platform and how to enter orders, how to change between market and limit and choose routes and sizes. So I got one good fill here at 202. And then I tried to get another cover. This was for 500 shares. I tried to cover another 1/3 of my position at 194. Unfortunately, it had already bounced just past that, and then I was too slow messing with it. And I really expected this to maybe just bounce back up towards 2 and then go ahead and take another leg down. I was really targeting about the 170 to 180 level. I expected that this could pull down that far based on the previous day's action. let me see. Yeah, I was looking at this high that had been set 2 days ago. I was looking at that level and possibly this consolidation here. And so I thought that we could probably come down here and test like 170. Unfortunately, that was not the case. And it bounced really much. This bounce was much bigger than I expected it to be. And it got back up to the 230s. But I was patient, because this is, at this point now, it's similar to what happens with overextended gap downs, where if this was pre-market and it had gap down and it pushed up towards red green and then had a big morning panic and puts a bottom in, a lot of times it's going to push back up towards VWAP. And you can see that that's what happened here. We ground up kind of through midday, and here's this yellow line here is VWAP. And about 12:30, 12:25, we came up close to VWAP, which was just a little bit under red green at that point. But so I was comfortable as long as the price was staying below VWAP. I expected that it could possibly go up and test it. I would assume that more shorts are going to come in at VWAP and try to hit it. And in general, once they have this big morning panic, they're going to come back up, get somewhere close to VWAP, and then fade back off. And so I was just patient, and I just held, looking for a hopeful afternoon breakdown. And now this like 210 level that is set here, it kind of held here in the afternoon, about 1:45 and 2 o'clock. It was still holding that level, but you can see that it was getting lower highs and lower highs. Definitely downtrending. I was hoping that it would eventually break that $2 level and have another quick hard panic, something like this, down to that 170 to 180 level that I was looking for. That didn't quite happen though. It did break down below that 210 level and had a bit of a panic down to about 2, and it bounced. Let's see, that's okay, yeah, 203, and then it bounced and ended up just breaking $2. When it broke down here, as soon as it broke down below $2 and it didn't just wash out and really panic underneath $2, I thought that there was a good chance that $2 was going to hold. So these two arrows here are where I covered the rest of my position, 500 shares each at 198. So that ended up being a pretty decent trade. I made $675 off of just 1,500 shares. So it was 1,500 shares at $2.50 a share, a 3,000 something dollar position. So it was a pretty decent percent gain. And I mean, you can just look at that chart, like especially this shorting it here. If I could have shorted this bounce, got a few cents higher entry price, but it would have been just a couple pennies. And this panic right here was just beautiful. And it looks like my cover right before the close was just about perfect, because that was the bottom in the afternoon. You can see in after hours it actually pushed back up to about 225 and pulled back from there, but it's already gapped up in after hours. So with this stock, who knows what it's going to do tomorrow. And so this is also a good example of something else I'm trying to do, which is to stop swinging these stocks. In general, my ideal plans going forward is to short in the morning, whether it's this overextended gap down or if it's something like this where it goes red. And I want to cover into this big panic. I just want to cover my entire position into that panic, because most of these will do this bounce back up towards VWAP. And so if I am looking to trade an afternoon fade, then this is going to be where I want to enter for that afternoon fade. I don't need to hold my shares from this initial entry to play the afternoon. I can trade this morning panic, get flat, let the stock bounce back up towards VWAP, and then I can go ahead and reshort there when it's somewhere close to VWAP, and then hopefully the stock fades off from there. In quite a few of my recent trades where I've tried to swing stocks that are putting in patterns like this have not worked out too well, and they've ended up gapping up as this one is doing. And then a few of them I've faced press releases the next morning, and then that causes bigger gap ups and morning spikes. And in general, I haven't taken big losses with those, but I'll give back a lot of money. Like in this one, if I had just shorted it here and just held hoping for a swing, I was up over $700 here. I ended up closing out the trade for $675 profit. If I hadn't covered any of my shares, and then if they go and put out a press release tomorrow, I could give back that entire unrealized profit. So I'm finding for me it's best to just take these as pure day trades for the most part, and especially just take a quick trade here for the morning panics. Those were my trades today for this first trading day of the year. I made $1,760 and couldn't ask for more. I mean, I could ask for more, but you get the idea. I'm super happy with the results, super happy with the process. If you like this, again, please smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and I'll catch you guys later.